Well, we're back after a few weeks off. I was away. I can't remember why we had time off, but it's a busy time of year. We all have a lot going on. Between Two Dans is back. Joining me today, Dan Besbris, one Dan and an honorary Dan, doing his first show in a little while. So let's bring both of the guys in. Let's unmute. Well, he will have to unmute himself. There we go. Dan Besbris, Mike Apotria. How are we, gentlemen?
Mikey's back, baby.
It's been a while. It's been a while, man. I'm excited. We got basketball season around the corner, and I get to spend a nice little afternoon with two of the most handsome gentlemen that I haven't spoken to in quite some time. So
you have two handsome gentlemen near you in your home, I assume is who you're referring to? Because
humble.
It's not us.
No, you bring up the attractiveness level of our show tenfold. So
did you guys see I put that tweet out like a week ago asking who the most handsome face was in fantasy basketball?
Yep.
I think the Ball Boys may have gotten the most votes there. Titus got a couple of votes.
Yeah, he would.
I did not. I did not receive votes.
No, that's not why we do it, is it, Dan?
No, it's not for the adulation. It's not to grace the cover of GQ or whatever. Oh well.
So anyway, Mike, as I said, it's been a long time. I don't even think I'd started this show when you sort of took a bit of a hiatus. So how is life treating you away from fantasy basketball?
It's fantastic. It's busy. It's fantastic though. Lots happened, and you said it. I think it's been 2 seasons since I've recorded any sort of show, wrote any article. I think here and there I don't even tweet often anymore. I still use Twitter a lot. So if you tweet at me, I'll see it, and you'll start seeing me a little bit more active, I think, again this season. So please feel free to shoot me your messages or your tweets, whatever you feel comfortable with. But it's busy, man. I got engaged last November. So to my fiance that you probably heard me talk on shows about plenty of times, Olivia. We've moved, I think, 3 different times in about a 2-year time span. Day job relocated me a few times. All good things, right? And now it's finally, I'm settled in here in Atlanta, Georgia, going to every game I possibly can, so, and I'm finally starting to get to that point where I'm starting to get some extra time back in my life where I'm excited to be here and just talk some hoops, talk some fantasy. I got my own seasons, my league's geared up, ready to go. I've been nonstop researching because I'm not good at football. Throw that out there. So I do that. And then it's like, oh, week 2, I'm 0-2. Here we go. Basketball time. So I'm excited to get into this, and I'm glad to be here with you guys.
And I know Dan's excited to have you here. So
I'm over the freaking moon. I'm cavelling. I'm going Yiddish on today's show. I'm so happy, man. I had so much fun. I mean, some people, there's probably enough folks that are watching or listening that were not around whatever it was 2-3 years ago when Mike was running the 7-day-a-week DFS show over at the Hoob, the land formerly known as Hoop Ball. But you and I worked together like almost daily then, just chatting about what was going on, life, sales stuff. So it makes me happy. It fills my heart to be able to do some stuff with Apotria again. So we had kind of had like a secret semi-reveal that you and I are going to be doing some stuff, but this is the first official thing that we've been on together in, I think, is it 3 years now? 2 or 3?
Yeah, probably about 3 years. Yeah, I think it's been about 3. I mean, yeah, we've been working. Me and Dan and I worked together for, I think it was probably about 5 basketball seasons.
Mm-hmm.
About 5, maybe even 6, 5 or 6 basketball seasons. And then Adam, it was great. I think you came along somewhere along that ride. Yeah, it's all a blur at this point. But that's the greatness, and the beautiful thing in this is just, you meet so many good people doing it, right? And when the good people find each other, they kind of stick together for quite some time, and they have those relationships. And these 2 gentlemen are experts in their craft, but they're also just experts in life, right? They're great people. So, I love doing this, but more or less, I love doing it with you guys. You guys are the people that make it so fun. And then also the people that just always reach out and have great questions and stuff like that. We love to help people. So that's why we got into this, and that's why we do it. You said it in the beginning, not too many, girls in a bar are going to come up to you and be like, hey, I heard you podcast fantasy basketball, so that's not why we were into it.
Literally one human to this point recognized me on the street. I see you, Shant. I see you out there. Ran into him in a, I didn't know who it was when I was walking, but, and I'll tell this sort of funny story here. I told it on my own feed one time, but I was in Studio City with my wife, our younger kid. Our older one was somewhere at that point. I don't freaking know, probably at a grandma's house or something like that. And we were getting lunch with my cousin and her kid who was similarly aged. And someone walks up to me in this it's like a little eatery area. There's a bunch of restaurants, outdoor eating. He's like, "Are you Dan Besbris?" And I was like, "Oh no, what's about to happen?" He was like, "I follow all your stuff." And I was like, "Oh, this is incredible. Someone just recognized my dumb face from a fantasy basketball podcast." So literally, Mike, one person, it was not at all a girl at a bar. And if it was, I'd probably be in way more trouble than I'm in right now. But let's try to make it 2, baby. Let's try to make it 2.
Say one more.
What are we talking about today, Adam?
Well, let's get the promo stuff. We are part of Old Man Squad, obviously. Follow at Old Man Squad, and at Old Man Squad will follow you back. That's right, isn't it, Dan?
It will follow you back slowly but surely. I can even do like 1 or 2 while you're doing the promo. I'm falling behind in life.
So Dan, rest assured, you will get followed at Dan Besbris, at Adam King 91, and at Mike Apotria. We are all on Twitter as well, and obviously like and subscribe to this show, to Old Man Squad, to all of the shows over on Old Man Squad. What are we talking about today? Look, some interesting topics, I think, as there usually is on this show. So if I'll read off. Or do we want to? Yeah, look, let's tell people what we're talking about. We're talking about stat leaders. We're talking about punt strategies. We're talking about some late round breakouts, potential targets. And then we move off of basketball and we talk about cartoons. So what was your favorite cartoon growing up? And that was my question. And that was because I was sitting on my lounge in front of all of my DVDs. I'm very old school in that way. I have a very big DVD movie collection.
Dude, same. My wife keeps trying to get me to throw the whole thing out. I won't do it.
No, I can't. So I was looking at them, and I have a lot of old cartoons, and I thought, which is my favorite? Then we're going to talk about what you do when you go to the beach. I'll tell you, my answer is very short. And what is a popular movie that you've never seen that might shock people? And that was a tough one for me. I spent... as I said to you guys, it was about midnight when we finalized the questions last night for me. So I went to bed thinking about these questions. We'll see what my answers are. All right. So anyway, let's jump into the question section. Forward! And change the background. Look at that. Let's fit our heads into the small little squares there. All right, let's start with the start at the top. Stat leaders. I'll start with you, Mike. You're the guest. Who are your projected stat leaders? We'll just do main stats: points, assists, steals, blocks, rebounds.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. A couple are going to be, I got 2 that are probably just very obvious ones that I'm sure we both, maybe one of us is off on one of them. So points, I was hesitant. But I'm just going to follow it up, and I think Luka just repeats that, again, wide enough margin between the second place finisher and that. I think it was like 3 points or something difference. The only reason I hesitated is, just like the Celtics, they played far into the playoffs, right? So you got to wonder, maybe do they ease back on the minutes early on in the season a little bit, just, wear and tear. Rebounds. Going probably with a fan favorite here, Jalen Duran. I think Duran just has the ability, only averaged 29 minutes a game last year. So there's room for, an extra 3 to 4 minutes. If he's able to, just do what he did and get that extra 3 to 4 minutes, I don't see why he can't lead the league. I think it was 13.7 last year with Sabonis. So I think that goes down a little bit. Maybe we're looking at 13.2, 13-ish. And I easily can see Duran doing that. My assist leader, I had James Harden. I want to go against the grain on a couple of these a little bit, because everybody that led these stats last year, we can easily see doing it again. But James Harden now just going to have the ball in his hands a little bit more without Paul George there. We know that Kawhi Leonard, his health isn't, the best. So there's going to be maybe sits on back-to-back where James Harden has to take on more of a load, and then other other factors. It's just James Harden's going to have the ball in his hands, and I easily could see him averaging, 10.5 to 11 assists a game. At blocks is Wemby. Not much needs to be explained there. All right. And then for steals, I'm going Jalen Suggs. And that's I was thinking Shea. That's like hey, let's be the obvious choice for Shea or Fox, right? But Suggs only averaged 27 minutes a game last year, and he was banged up throughout the course of the season and still was able to average 1.4 steals. This dude's going to have the ball in his hands. He looks like he's going to be their lead guard. So it's bump again. Same thing with Durant. Maybe if we give him another 4 or 5 minutes, why can't that be close to 2 or 2?
That was dynamic, and you jacked a few of the names that I wanted to throw out there as like, oh, this will be fun. So Duran is no longer. I'm not going to repeat you on that one. I'll start with steals because blocks is I think we're probably all gonna go Wemby on that one. Steals, I'm gonna go, and I want to flip back over to the camera so I can see Adam's reaction when I say Dyson Daniels. I think leads the league in steals this year.
Yes.
Yeah, I knew he was gonna like that one. He was at 1.4 last year in about 22 minutes. I could see his minutes jumping by as many as almost maybe 30% possibly this coming season. So if you add 4.5 or 0.45, I should say, steals to that mix, you get him up into that 1.9 range. He's right up there with the topmost guys. My other guy that I was thinking about was Alex Caruso. But I don't know. I mean, we'll see how the body holds up over the course of the year. But I think Daniels is your dark horse guy in that one. Assists, if you're going to go Harden, I'll just take Trey. I would have liked to go Harden also. I think he has a massive year. I'm huge into James Harden this season. But Trey Young's going to have like a usage of, is 80 a possibility? Can you go 80? 80 out of 100? And honestly, the funny thing is his assists might go down from last year because he's going to turn 19 shots into 22 of those and not pass it to these people. But I'll go Trey just to be different. But I really like the James Harden call also. Rebounds, I was hoping I could say Duran because last year my hot take was that he was going to lead the league in rebounding, and then he got to 11.6. So I got to pick somebody else. The rest of these names are so boring though for rebounds.
They are boring. They are
Bonus,
boring.
Gobert, AD, Jokic. These guys are always at the top of the board. And I'll just go Sabonis to repeat on that one. And then scoring, I got to go Luka too. That one's sort of like the chalky call. But maybe my fun call is probably Dyson Daniels. That was my fun one.
Yeah. I like the Dyson one. Absolutely. So I'll go Luka for points. I just think, as you said, I mean, there's guys in the mix. I guess Cam Thomas is potentially the weird dark horse that if Brooklyn just fully unleash him and let him do what he wants, he'll at least try to lead the league in scoring. Whether that actually happens, I don't know. Blocks, Wemby, rebounds. Yeah, look, I like Duran as well. I mean, if I had to go a bit of a dark horse, and this will be dependent on playing time and a few other things, but I don't know, Jonas Valanciunas, there's not a lot of rebounders in Washington, and if he plays 30 minutes a night, Valanciunas could just gobble up every rebound.
That's a fun call.
So,
I love JV.
I like it.
Yeah. I don't think it happens, but
nice conviction, Adam.
But no, look, I'm doubting myself as soon as I say it. But look, let's be spicy. Let's say Valanciunas. And I know, Dan, I know you like a bit of Jonas in your life.
I love JV, but I thought he'd go later this year. Everybody got on board the JV train and kind of ruined my fun.
Well, that's probably your fault. I mean,
it might be my fault. Yeah, but I keep yelling about Jalen Williams, and in drafts with randos, he's still going near 40. I haven't ruined everybody yet. And Freddie VanVleet is still going near 40 unless it's an industry mock at this point. Nobody
does. Yeah.
That's why I love. Oh, Adam, I know you can't be in them, but I wish you could just VPN your way to the States so you can get in a Yahoo Public Prize League, because those drafts are so much fun. They are just a delight. Getting James Harden at like 58 last year was so hilarious. Just boat race that league.
It's mouth-watering stuff.
Yeah, it is. Clean up. Sorry, continue.
All right, assists. So we've done Harden, we've done Trey. Look, I guess Halliburton. I'll go Halliburton then. He's the third name in that discussion. So one of us will be right.
Maybe.
Probably. And then Steele. Yeah, look, I think Steele's is the interesting one. I like the Dyson call. I do think Caruso will be close, but I'm gonna sort of stick to my convictions and say LaMelo Ball. If he can stay healthy and the Hornets can be moderately competitive, then I think LaMelo has a chance to be up there. But it is one of those categories that's very sporadic in terms of who. Like it could be Marcus Smart. I mean, maybe he plays 30 minutes and leads the league in steals again.
Could be freaking Jimmy Butler comes back and goes back up to 2.
Yeah,
that one's all over the map. That's a fun one.
Yeah,
though.
It is. I mean, Van Fleet. If he's obviously not really focusing on scoring anymore. So maybe it's him. But anyway, so a few names there for people to walk away with and do what you will with that information. If you want to put a bet on or something, I'm not a betting person, but let's go with Dan's question. Favorite punt strategy? Now I like this question, but should I? Well, I'm going to lead it off then, because I like it.
Yeah,
punting points.
Also, this is your show.
Well, it is my show, but punting points. I'm going to go punting points because I've done it in a couple of drafts now. And
punt points, you son of a gun.
Well, you sort of talked me into this because I know you've done shows with Adam Stock and listening to him as well, and Mitch Casey just did a punt show as well, I've done it in a couple of mocks and actually in a real draft, and as you've said, it flips everything. Like it makes players, top 100 players, top 60 players, and top 40 player. Like Cam Thomas has zero value if you're punting points.
No.
Free throws and threes, yes, but you can get them elsewhere. So I'm liking punting points. Generally speaking, my favorite, because I punt multiple categories, my usual sort of fallback is punting rebounds, blocks, and field goal percentage. So I'm certainly open to punting 3 categories. And so I really just target guards. I go guard heavy, bigs that do guard things. Vucevic has been a favorite of mine for many years because he doesn't block shots at all, but he'll get you close to a steal. He'll hit a 3. He hits his free throws. He gets some assists. Kelly Olynyk is a beautiful player in that build, but he just doesn't play enough, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go punt points for this season, but generally speaking, it is that punt big man kind of build. Dan, I know you like punt points, so I'll let you elaborate on that even more.
I love punt points. Yeah, I mean, you touched on the key things there, which is how much it changes the board. You're attacking a completely different player pool than everybody else in your league, as everyone is like, oh no, I'm going to get left behind in scoring, and they're wildly grasping at guys that are going to get 20 points, but are kind of crap at a lot of stuff. You're just like, you're just sort of derping your way through. You're taking your Derek Whites, and you're not worried about that crap. You're taking your Jalen Williams. You're not worried about that crap. In my opinion, I actually think it simplifies 9-cat in a lot of ways. I know that it, and Adam Stock has talked about how sometimes it can be a little bit hard to pull off because you need to make sure that, you're still getting your 3-pointers and you're not ruining your efficiency. But basically, if you get a guy early, or 2 guys in a perfect world that are super efficient, maybe not score a ton, but are really efficient and get you other stuff across the board, then you get your volume guys with high percentages early. And then the guys that you fill in around the edges later are probably taking 6-7 shots a game. So they're not going to matter much. Ultimately, you're going to get a center in there that's not a punt free throw guy, but like a Valanciunas or an Ivica Zubac or someone who's helps your field goal percent to bring that back up. And as long as your 3-point shooters are in like the 45-46% neighborhood, those balance out, and suddenly you're winning percentages, you're winning rebounds, you're winning assists, you got a great shot in steals and blocks and turnovers, and all these other teams are like butting heads over frickin' Colin Sexton at the end of a draft, and you're just like, don't need that guy. Someone like Dyson Daniels, who we just talked about, has way more appeal. Draymond Green becomes a world beater as an 8-point scorer at a center spot, but does all the other stuff. I love it. My other favorite this season is punt blocks, because there's this chunk of centers that doesn't block shots but is efficient. Guys like Adebayo, Vooch, you mentioned, do other things. I mentioned Zubats, Jonas Valanciunas, Isaiah Hartenstein. Cat, if you want to go back to the earlier rounds,
Jalen
Duren. There's a lot of centers that don't block shots all of a sudden. And if you're not worried about the shot blocking guys, you, I think, have an interesting crop of dudes to pick from, because if you are trying to get blocks, you end up ruining your free throw percent often, because the centers have like slid in two directions now, where the ones that are good at free throw shooting and block shots are pretty much all getting drafted in the first round. Like after that, there's pretty much none left. You have to wipe something off the table. And for me, I'd rather try to win free throw percent and not worry as much about blocks. So punt blocks is my alternate, but I love punting points. And it always happens to me too, because my old dudes don't typically score that much.
It becomes harder as you get older.
It does. Hoisting it up.
Yeah. Mike, your favorite. Do you have a favorite?
So generally, I generally don't punt unless I notice, a draft is just not going the way I expected. And like now I'm like, I see the opportunity is there for me. I will punt. And that's not to say, mid-season, you don't decide to tweak into, you realize after a few weeks in the standings that, listen, I'm just not competing in blocks. So at this point, I might as well just ship off the one Brooke Lopez like guy I have and just get better in the categories that I'm like in the middle of the road in. But if I did, I think the easiest one is for me, I would think blocks, like Dan said. He made a lot of great points there. There's a lot of those players that, late in drafts that you can just get, those late centers that you love. And, they fall because the main reason is that they're just those guys that get 0.9 blocks, or maybe it's 1.1. You get all these late guys, Zubac, the options that you can use at center, Ayton, even if you want to go with like a Zion type player, he fits those types of builds. I'm looking at Jared Allen, Jalen Williams, all these guys that you can get in those mid to late rounds that I think are just going to be perfect, absolutely perfect for that build. I mean, three out of 11 players last year that led the league in blocks, the top 11, 3 of them shot less than 48.5% from the field. So you're talking about the center position. You're getting, you're getting your blocks from these guys, but unless you're getting, those elite guys, you're probably taking hits in either free throw. Some of them are hurting you in field goal. I like to try to just be balanced across the board, be well across the board. I don't want to have, listen, the one thing I'm always okay with punting is turnovers, because if I have good players on my team, I'm going to have a ton of turnovers. It's just, that's the way it works.
Yeah.
Especially if you're a guard heavy team or whatever it is. So that's the one I accidentally and meaningfully punt every single season. I don't think I've had a season where I've been good at turnovers in probably 4 years. I'm just okay with it. I just assume it's going to happen because you're going to want your James Hardens. You're going to want obviously your Lukas, your Shays, your Steph Currys. These guys are going to turn the ball over 3 to 5 times a game because the ball's in their hands 30% of the time. High usage rate players are going to have turnovers. So that's kind of my thought process on that, is I would choose to punt blocks, but I guess after talking it through, my answer was turnovers. Yeah.
Okay, you convinced yourself.
Yeah, well, I guess it's turnovers. Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally meant to do that.
And I think I mean, there's no right or wrong when it comes to punting. If you do it well, you can win. But it is easy to stuff it up as well and end up drafting a weird team that makes no sense. I do like Gibbo said here, 4 punt builds. I love 4 punt builds. Punting points, threes, free throws, and assists. I have done that. You just target bigs and guards that shoot the ball well. But that's when you can target players that block shots, get rebounds, and don't hit free throws. It doesn't matter. I do love a 4 cat. 4 cat punt. Big fan of that. Third basketball related question. We're talking about any players outside the top 150 that we think could be top. What did you say? Top 75.
75, baby.
I'm going to let Dan go first on this one. Anyone, Dan, that you will see outside the top 150?
So there are really only like 2 or 3 guys, because Yahoo's second board, they pretty much moved everybody that was ultra late a little earlier and really thinned out the herd in that range. 2 guys that I have ended up with on my fantasy teams that are ranked outside of 150 is kind of the entire list right now. One of them is Dyson Daniels, who we already talked about. I think he's like 155, so he's narrowly outside of it, but he is actually there. He's 154, excuse me. Okay, you know what? There's three. Top 75 is going to be a pretty good stretch for him, but I was kind of working through the numbers. He had about 9 starts last year when CJ McCollum was out, and I like the rebounding, assist, and steals numbers were outstanding, but he shot an unseasonably low. He was like 35 or 36% during that 2.5 week stretch. I don't think it's going to be that bad this year. He'll probably be in the low 40s, which created this weird like artificial depression in the way that systems ranked him during that run. Because it was like, oh, well, he shot 37%. But if that was just in the low 40s and he wasn't like a total waste of space and field goal percent, then you got these big kicks from steals and nice assists and good rebounds. And he becomes this almost like an unheralded Amen Thompson type. He's not as good a rebounder as Thompson is, but the other stuff is not that different between the two. So I do think there's a path to 75. It's a big reach. I think 100 would be a much more attainable goal for someone like Daniels. Other name would be Tari Eason. If we're going to talk about going over to Houston instead of Thompson, who's now inside the top 150 in this new Yahoo board. I think Eason can get around 24, 25 minutes a game. And in that last year, he was kind of in that 80 to 100 range because he is an elite rebounder and steals guy. There's not a lot of wiggle room for more because of how many bench guys the Rockets have. And then the one who's way farther down the board is PJ Washington. I don't expect him to get to 75, but he went on about a 3-week heater near the end of the regular season last year where he was rolling top 40. That doesn't stick, but if he could somehow get his field goal percent to like 45, 46 instead of 43, and if the free throw was like just barely over 70 instead of under it, I think you could actually see him getting into that 75 to 100 range as well. So those are my 3 names in that window.
All right, Mike, I'll let you go because if you guys take all of my players, then I don't have to answer this question. So who are your names?
Well, I think Dan had I was surprised. Dan, you had 3 names I didn't have down, right?
Hey.
And I wrote 3 or 4 names. So I think that's like why I love asking this question, because I think these, I have friends that always, and you guys probably too, they reach out to you when it's fantasy season's coming up and say, hey man, I need some help, right? And we're like, I don't have enough time for you. I'm busy. Here's 10 players. Look for them at the end of your draft. Make sure a couple of them are on your team. I try to do that for my friends at least. So I like those. I like those names.
I don't.
I want to.
Not if I'm in a league with them.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. That's true. Yeah. I like to preface with, I think for this is kind of like one of those outlandish questions where you need a lot of things to go right for your prediction to happen, right? And there's a few names, like one of them's Taylor Hendricks. I think a lot of people are probably a little interested in him going outside of the top 150 as of right now. I think it's probably going to creep up and get into that maybe like 130 range just because he is one of those great dart throws at the end of draft. Utah seems like it's a little crowded right now, but there's no reason that this guy's not going to be a big part of their future. We know this is a rebuilding team. They were shopping and marketing in the offseason. Who's to say they're not going to shop a few other players at some point? And I think if this guy begins to get those starter level minutes, he's got a great fantasy game that easily I think could be in that top 75 to 80 range. Very unsexy name that I think a lot of people have been on for quite some time. He just keeps getting injured is Wendell Carter Jr. It's kind of that last chance for him, I think, right now. And I know that he was rumored in trades and they were rumored to be looking at Claxton and a couple of these other centers that were available in the offseason. But when he plays, if he just can put a decent stretch together where he can just not, and I feel like he's always breaking his hand. It's like, it feels like it's a hand injury every single time. I'm just assuming and thinking of that, but
thumb stuff. I don't know if you remember that from like 4 years ago when Bogman and I had the hashtag thumb stuff going on.
Yeah. So, listen, I don't expect him to. He's probably the one guy that's like very unsexy on my list, but I just think he's a good dart throw at the end of drafts because he's walking into a role that still is. And until he breaks his hand, he's going to be a usable fantasy player. I think Jalen Smith is someone that I could see cracking in that top 80, top 75 range. There's been some weird stuff going on in Chicago. This guy's been complaining about minutes on every team he's been on. So I mean, the opportunity's there. They're eventually probably going to sell off Vuk, and they're eventually probably going to sell off Levine, probably some other pieces as well. I think Pat Williams, he can easily be gone too. So there's an opportunity for this guy just to kind of step up and play some big minutes. I don't think it's going to be early on in the season. It's one of those things that, he's probably going to be hard to own at the beginning of the year, but you got a good opportunity if you can beat people to the free agency and grab them. And then the last one is, and I'm going to butcher the name, so I apologize. I'm going to give him my best shot. Yves Missy. Did I do it right?
You're pretty close, yeah.
I'm pretty close. Okay. I was hoping I was at least close. Opportunity, right? And that's what it comes down to. It's just a ton of opportunity there for that kid. Do we know if he's going to start opening night? Not yet. Sometimes I like to get into some of those leagues to draft a little bit early, right? And some people are like, oh, yeah, people can get hurt. Yeah, but I think this guy's going to start opening night, and I think he's got an opportunity. And if I wait until that news breaks, I'm going to have to pay 5 rounds, 6 rounds earlier for him now, right? I think he's a good name where if you've already drafted, pick him up, see what happens. You don't know, right? Worst case scenario, you drop him, grab somebody else. But those are the 4 names I had written down. All
right. Sadly, I didn't have any of them, so that means I am going to have to answer the question.
This is neat.
And I like you, Dan. I went off the Yahoo, the latest Yahoo.
Yeah, I did Fantasy Drafts, Fantasy Pros ADP. So I think it takes Yahoo, ESPN, and kind of averages them together.
Big push.
Yeah, I mean, all the names seemed viable that you mentioned. So I think they're all way down in the back end of drafts. Dyson Daniels, I do like, as Dan said there. Asar Thompson is one because we've seen it. He's probably one of the ones that we have seen. We saw at the start of last season. He was a top 50, top 40 player for about 3 weeks until they just decided not to play him anymore. So maybe if he can get really good minutes and somewhat sort of repeat what he did to open last season, I think there's a chance there. And with a lot of these guys, I think that we're talking about, it also depends on your build and where you view them. Because for Asar Thompson, if you're punting points and free throw percentage, his value goes way up. Whereas if you need points, his value goes way down because he's only going to score maybe 11 points. And Dyson Daniels, as you said, is another really good example of that. Let me bring my list back up. So there was Asar Thompson. There was 2 more. Who was? I know who my last one is, but I want to. Oh, Scoot. Scoot was one of my other ones, and that again would need. I don't like Portland at all, but I'm ending up with Scoot. I'm ending up with Simons. I'm ending up with Shaden Sharp. All these guys. There's a lot of mouths to feed there, despite the fact that they're not very good. And I just think in certain builds, Scoot could be we saw it down the stretch last year. He could be 19 points and 9 assists with maybe a steal, and his percentages aren't great, but who cares? So maybe Scoot, there's a path there for top 75, if not all season, for maybe 2 months of the season or something like that. And my last one is Ben Simmons, who he's on this list every year.
No.
And I know, last round pick, happy to take him. Again, he is someone that we've seen do it. It was many, many years ago that he did it, but we know what kind of a player he is. Brooklyn, I like the situation he's in this year. If he can be healthy, there's no pressure on him to carry them to wins. They're not expected to be a winning team this year. So if he starts at point guard and he plays 65 games, maybe he can get, 12 points, but the value comes from 7 assists, 8 rebounds, 1.6 steals, 0.8 blocks. He's not going to hit threes, despite the fact that we see him every preseason shooting threes. But his field goal percentage is decent. So I think there's a path there. I'm really, really not confident, but I have to throw Ben Simmons in there. Just it feels right.
That dude has the speed of a tortoise at this stage of his career.
He does.
Yeah.
He does. All right, on to the non-basketball questions.
Yeah, the weird stuff.
And then because I have to get out of here in about 10 minutes, and Dan might have to
you're
get
gonna
out of
fly.
here in 10 minutes.
Although I did get a text. I got a text from my mom. She's fine. She has picked up the little one at preschool. So I'm
Good to go.
good
All
for
right.
at least 20. But you got to go. So let's get
I do.
weird fast.
All right. We'll go back to the top. Start with mine. Favorite cartoon as a kid growing up. So as I said, I thought about this question last night. I was sitting in front of my very old man DVD collection, looking at, as I often do, trying to decide what to watch, and then I end up watching the same thing every time anyway. Looking at different cartoons and thinking, what was a cartoon that I got up for every Saturday morning to watch on TV? And there were a few, but I think for me, it's probably He-Man.
He-Man.
Yeah, I was always up for He-Man and Astro Boy. And was Astro Boy a big thing over in the States?
Not as big.
Not as big.
He-Man
Okay.
was, though. When I was
big.
When I was 3 or 4, I think I had He-Man underpants. We can check with my mom on that, but fairly certain.
We'll get her in on the next show and confirm.
Nana,
or
can we
deny.
check in with you on my first underpants, please?
Yeah, and the one regret, well, not one, a regret I have, and it's not really a regret of mine. It's probably I'll blame it on my mum as well. Is when we were growing up, we had all of the He-Man toys. We had Castle Grayskull, Snake Mountain, every action figure, every Voltron action figure, every Transformers. We had Optimus Prime, Autobot City, all of the originals. She gave them all to my cousin.
Oh.
and you look at what they sell for now. And,
yeah, I was about to say, is the end of the story, your cousins have a beach villa that
no, I don't know what they did with them, but I know she gave them to my younger cousin. And yeah, it's sad because I remember I see all these toys up for sale. And
so you're a couple years older than me, right? Not a ton.
I was born in 79.
Okay, 83.
Yep.
And Mike?
Don't make me say
2004?
91.
Yeah, so
91.
He's the youth. Do you want to go to the youth next, or almost as age?
Let's go youth.
Youth, yeah. No, I mean, listen, I watched He-Man. I was big into Transformers as well. I watched Thundercats, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I was into the old school Saturday cartoons, but the ones that I found, like right when you said that question, I thought of Angry Beavers. I thought of Hey Arnold, and I thought of Dexter's Lab. Those are the 3 cartoons of my childhood that I vividly remember the most. Like I can remember and recall scenes from them. So those got to be my answers right there, the classics.
Mine is DuckTales, unquestionably.
Okay.
When someone asks me what's the cartoon of my childhood, I don't even have to think about it. I can still do the whole song. I have what I was looking at over here while you were talking was I have the 3 seasons of DuckTales DVDs on a shelf right here in the bedroom. DVDs, baby. I don't know what it was about 2 capitalist ducks fighting it out for treasure and gold. But man, that really struck a chord with me. And those kids always getting into mischief. And Donald, for some reason, was in the Navy on a couple of episodes. I still don't fully understand why the Admiral kept calling him Seaman Duck. And I think they were just trying to get jokes in for adults. They were like, yeah, let's put the word seaman into this joke, into this thing. None of it made sense. They were Donald's children, and he was just like, I gotta go to the Navy, kids, live with Uncle Scrooge. And Scrooge is like, what are these kids doing here? And that's the premise of the damn show. I need to go hunt down every dollar on earth. And I got these 3 kids getting in the way. But listen, they're going to teach you more than you're going to teach them. That's the beauty of DuckTales, ladies and gentlemen. Also, life is like a hurricane in Duckburg. They have 3 things there: race cars, they have lasers. Do you guys know what the 3rd thing is they have in Duckburg? They have aeroplanes. No. You want me to do the whole? I'll do the whole damn song. No, let's keep going. I know you got to go.
And Matt Carmody feels my pain. Yes, parents getting rid of toys. And I didn't include South Park because it's not a kid friendly.
Yeah, that came later too.
I did love. I still do love South Park. A day at the beach. What do we do? I said my answer is going to be short, and that's because I hate the beach. So if I go to the beach, my family goes and does the stuff. I sit and guard all of our belongings.
You're such an old man. I love it because that's what I do at the beach. I actually don't mind digging a hole. How do you feel about digging a hole, Adam?
Yeah, I'm okay with digging a hole, and I'm okay with just walking on the beach, like going for a walk.
Oh, I don't like that.
Along the
It takes
beach.
too long to lift your feet up and out of the sand every time.
But I don't like sand. I don't like the mess that it brings back into my car.
Yeah,
and it is a very old man thing because as a kid, I loved the beach. So that is an old man thing, definitely.
Mike, do you like the beach? Can you be the youth on this, or are you also?
I couldn't hate it anymore. Honestly, I couldn't hate the beach. I couldn't hate the beach anymore. My fiance will tell you, like we take vacations. I think every year we go to the Bahamas every single year. And this is the first year where I'm getting my wish, and it's when everybody gets off the boat, I can stay on for one day, and I just have like the boat to myself, and there's no line at the bar, and the casino's empty, and it's just Mike Day, right?
Lovely.
I'm not a big fan. Like I have ADHD, right? So I can only sit in the sun for so long before I want to just get up and run around and do something. So I'm with you, Dan. I do like to dig a hole. I will dig a hole. Absolutely, that will keep me busy for a little while. And I will play like beach volleyball. So if I have something to do, I can maybe stay there a little longer, but I'm never going to be the first person that's like, let's go to the beach. No.
The most ridiculous thing is that I live 3 miles from the beach in West LA. And the only thing I like about the beach is that it keeps the weather really nice where I live 3 miles from the beach. Also, you can't, like, if you want to live on the beach in Los Angeles, you better have $8 to $9 million just to throw around, which I don't. But this is funny. Apparently, I'm like German tourists.
Yep. Yes. I won't try that name. But yes, here in the Netherlands, and I was in the Netherlands last year and didn't see a beach, but I'm assuming they are there. Here in the Netherlands, digging holes in beaches is something German tourists do. That sounds German, doesn't it?
There's something very satisfying about like moving soot from one area to another, and then like you created a thing, and then you can do tunnels and you can do a little castle, and I don't have to move.
When you hit water, when you're digging in the beach and you get that first little water, you're like, I'm onto something. There's something below here, and your brain just it turns off. And at that point, you turn into like one of those. What are they? The Hitachi. Barrel machine thing. Backhoe. You're a backhoe next thing you know. And I get yelled at if I dig it too deep sometimes. And actually, this is a great point. And I just saw this on social media. I don't know if it was Twitter or somewhere. And I hope you two gentlemen seen it. I guess it was one clip of a bunch of kids just digging a huge hole, right? And they leave it, and it pans to another clip, and it's a news station reporting that there's a scientist over the hole saying that a meteor crashed into it and did this, and it's hilarious because it's the same exact hole. It's the same hole. And they did a whole story on it. There's like 10 scientists down there looking at this hole. They pull a rock from it and say it's a meteor, an asteroid, and they're going to break it and test it and do all.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and it's just people digging holes, man.
I'm the anti-Fitbit. I want to take as few steps as possible, and that's the thing I can do. It requires me not to take any steps at all. So give me a hole, man. I think it's really fun.
Steps.
We all hate the beach and just want to dig a hole.
It is. I thought one of us would like it at least. All right, back onto movies before I get out of here. What is a movie that you've never seen that would shock people? For me, it's potentially The Godfather. So I haven't seen The Godfather.
Wow.
And
none of us have.
E.T. I haven't seen E.T.
E.T.
I feel like it was on when I was a kid, but I just didn't sit and watch it. I wanted to go and do something else. So they're probably the two. It wouldn't be anything recently because I watch everything that comes out.
Yeah, that was Godfather was going to be my pick too. And that's just like the same general answer if someone was like, what's a show that you haven't seen is Sopranos. So apparently I have an aversion to organized crime entertainment. Sorry to what's his nuts? Who's the director that does all of the organized crime shows?
Scorsese.
Yeah, sorry, Scorsese. I've seen like one Scorsese movie in my life. trying to think of what other. Now I didn't have a. You know what? This is like you sniping me in advance.
I can go, Dan, and if you want to take a second, because I think it's hilarious that none of us have seen The Godfather. Just like we all hate the beach. This is why we're all best friends and doing a podcast together, right?
We're gonna have to get together and watch The Godfather on the beach.
Yeah.
Yes.
Listen, my old town does it. They play one during the summer. They'll put movies up there. It's usually just reruns of Jaws nonstop. But I know a guy. I could probably get the Godfather.
Yeah,
mine's actually a show, and I know I'm going to get some hate for this. And it's Game of Thrones. I've never seen Game of Thrones. Everybody talking about it during its peak and its height. I had to sit there and just be silent and not chip in at all to any part of the conversation. I tried to get it going, and the problem with it is not that I don't want to watch it. I just feel like it's one of those things that's going to take me so long now because so many seasons came out, and my fiance just won't even give it a shot. So I get maybe like an hour and a half to 2 hours of TV time a night if I'm lucky, and usually it's a game if it's basketball season. So it's like I just don't know when and how and if I can ever catch up, but that's it.
Okay.
Game of Thrones.
Dan, have you come up? Did you look at your DVD collection and think about what's not there?
I Googled most watched movies of all time. And so now I'm at the IMDb page for that. And I've seen everything in the top 10 besides The Godfather. I don't know what that. I've never heard of that one. So I'm not even going to. Scrolling, creating great podcasts. Citizen Kane at 25. I haven't seen Citizen Kane. I know Rosebud is the whisper at the end of it, but I haven't seen the whole movie. Never saw Ben-Hur, which feels wrong for me as a Hebrew. I probably should have seen Ben-Hur. What other names on this one have I not seen? Oh, here's one. I've never seen Braveheart.
Okay.
I don't know. Yep. Of this list, I'm sure other pages have other lists. Here, well, I'll go to Empire's 100 best movies of all time. See if there's there. You got to go though. You probably can't wait for this.
I do.
Yeah.
But there are some out there. Obviously, yes, but yes, I do need to go. My wife had some surgery yesterday, so I'm on school drop-off duty today. I guess Mike, people can find you on Twitter, obviously, but what is sort of coming up in the future for you?
So the future is right now. It's a little bit of a mystery. I mean, so I know me and Dan have been speaking, and I'm planning on getting back into this podcast space.
Yeah, maybe.
Whether it's just a couple shows a week for DFS and maybe jumping on shows with some other guys once in a while. I do a lot of the year-long stuff as well. So season long, I'm kind of open right now, and it's just as much time as my schedule will afford me is how often you guys will see and hear me. So I'm kind of dialing things back as we speak and getting ready to gear up. So just stay tuned. You guys will see me, but yep, absolutely find me on Twitter at Mike Apotria. I'm pretty much on Twitter throughout the day. So best place to get me.
And Dan, plug the Old Man Squad. Why not?
I legitimately can't find a super duper famous movie. I mean, I could go Godfather 2.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah. Okay, fine. Old Man Squad, everybody come join it. And you don't have to be an old man to do it. We just happen to be beach hating old men on this. I had Kayla Fonte on the podcast this morning, and she's not an old man. She's a young female. We are inclusive here at the Old Man Squad. But yeah, I mean, like, rate, subscribe, do all that good stuff. This is Adam. You're doing this show on the network that I founded, so I feel like the show kind of does the work on that one. So just follow all of us on social media, interact with us, tell us about your favorite cartoons, and let's have a silly old time.
Yeah, follow all of us. Follow at Old Man Squad. I'm assuming we'll be back next week. It is a bit of a hectic part of the season. Once we're up and running, it'll be fine. But yeah, I'm fairly certain we'll be back next week with another episode. Thanks, Mike, for jumping on, for being a special guest. We'll probably get you on at some point during the season, let's be honest, so we can talk about how much we hate the beach. Dan, I'll let you go and do what you need to do.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We will catch you next week.